you see that the top 1% has done just fine underneath Democrats. And speaking of establishment protecting establishment, Charles Koch, for my notebook, here's my notebook. Charles Koch had, speaking, I believe it was on ABC on yesterday. Now, let me say this. Charles Koch did not directly say that he thinks Hillary Clinton would be better than potentially one of the Republicans, namely Donald Trump. He didn't directly say this. So let me say that at the top of this section. However, he implicitly implied it. He definitely alluded to the fact that he believed that Bill Clinton was better in some respects than George W. Bush. And he indirectly asserted that Hillary Clinton would probably be better than one of the Republican candidates. And I'm sure he's referring to Donald Trump. If you don't know Charles Koch, you should. Charles Koch is one of the brothers, owners of the privately held super company, oil company. I mean, they're involved in everything. Koch Industries. They are more libertarian than they are Republican, but they find themselves supporting Republican candidates very heavily in recent years. And so Koch did allude to the fact that he believed that Hillary Clinton might be better than, let's say, Donald Trump. This is consistent with Dick Cheney. This is consistent with, I believe, Bill Kristol. This is consistent with a lot of heavy hitters in the Republican Party who look at Hillary Clinton and say, you know what, never Trump, so we'll take Hillary. Hillary Clinton subsequently came out with a tweet yesterday saying that she's not interested in the endorsement of somebody who makes it more difficult to vote and someone who denies climate science. Now, from a pure, and you guys have to forgive me, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to forgive me because I have two ways of analyzing things. One is from a political, just a pure political analysis, whether it was basically looking at it as a sports event, right? Was it a good political play? And then there's the truth to power analysis. Okay. So from a pure political play, well done, Hillary Clinton. That's the way you have to reject these pseudo endorsements from people who you don't want affiliated with your brand. However, speaking truth to power, you saying that saying that Charles Koch, you don't want his endorsement, doesn't change the fact that he can see something in your policy positions that is more attractive than Donald Trump. And you refuting his and rejecting his endorsement doesn't change the reality of your historical connection to Charles Koch that many people may not be aware of. I was reading an article that Lee Fong of The Intercept tweeted out, and I think it's mandatory reading for everyone to understand the relationship that Charles Koch had, along with a lot of other organizations, a lot of other super pro-business, top 1% elite in America had with the Clintons by virtue of the Democratic Leadership Council. Charles Koch and Koch Industries were a part of their board of directors. They paid $25,000 to be a part of the board of directors for the DLC. The DLC, founded by Al Gore, I believe, Joseph Lieberman, and another name that escapes me, essentially was the new wave of Democrats, the new Democrats who wanted to shed the economic populism, who wanted to shed the more left-leaning economic policies. They wanted to shed the relationship with labor unions, and they wanted to become pro-business, and they did a hell of a job doing that. The DLC was funded partly by the Koch brothers. The DLC recruited Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and became the president in 1992. And even now, more recently, there are some lobbyists who raise money, lobbyists for the Koch Industries, who also fundraise for Hillary Clinton. So it was a great tweet rejecting the endorsement from Charles Koch. However, it does not negate the reality that the Koch brothers are actually have a vested interest in the Clinton campaign. Not just that, but if you look at the economic policies of Bill Clinton and these third way neoliberal Democrats, you see that the top 1% has done just fine underneath Democrats. If anything, the Koch brothers are probably, I'm trying to think of, climate change. If anything, that they part ways with the Clintons, it's climate change. And that's just in the rhetoric because Hillary Clinton supports fracking. If you're worried about the environment in general. So I think it was brilliant. Here, Hillary, way to reject an endorsement. Donald Trump should have did that the same day that David Duke tried to endorse him. You know, smart political play. However, the reality underlying it suggests that, one, you didn't point out anything economically that you two would disagree with. You didn't point out anything that you and Charles Koch disagree on economically. And that has been the play for a very long time in American politics, particularly left-leaning Democratic new DLC, New Democrats politics, is that they have intentionally shed economic populism. They've intentionally distanced themselves from the New Deal, the Great Society era of democratic economic policies, and they have embraced pro-business policies to the detriment of labor, the working class, and the lower middle class. They haven't been able to find policies that would be pro-business and support and create a safety net and protect the safety net and help grow the middle class and help move people out of poverty into the middle class. No, they have embraced policies, NAFTA, now the TPP. They've embraced policies that have been detrimental to the middle class and the poor in America, and benefiting the top 1%, benefiting corporate America. And Charles Koch is quite okay with that. So, well, maybe, and even let's take the other one, right? So she tweeted out that she doesn't want an endorsement from someone who denies climate change data. We could throw that out the window because, you know, of her unfeigned support, her unfettered support for fracking up until she started running for president in a more progressive era, right? This is a new progressive era. And she didn't expect this much populism to have survived the last 30 years of DLC. So she was completely blindsided by that and said, let me shift to the left. So now she's not supporting fracking all the way. But put that aside. Let's look at the second thing that she said, that she doesn't support anyone who's going to make it more difficult for people to vote. If you look at this election, whether this has come expressly from Hillary Clinton's mouth or not, she has benefited from the inability and the difficulty with which people have had to vote. That sentence didn't come out right. She's benefited from how difficult it has been for people to vote. That's what I wanted to say. She's directly benefited. Matter of fact, if you look at the results, I guarantee you there is probably a very statistically significant correlation between the number of turnout, and the success of Bernie Sanders. And then the lower the turnout, the more successful Hillary Clinton has been, right? Hillary Clinton has an inverse relationship with the voter turnout. And so while she's saying, no, Charles Koch, I don't want your support because you try to make it more difficult for people to vote, she's directly benefiting from it being more difficult to vote. So even that, disingenuous. And then, of course, she doesn't have anything that she directly disagrees with the Koch brothers on economically, because the Koch brothers have done just fine. And the Koch brothers benefited from NAFTA. The Koch brothers are going to benefit from the TPP. The Koch brothers and all these other industries that poured money into the DLC have benefited from this neoliberal economic paradigm, this era of welfare reform that's got, Democrat. And this is the other thing. Democrats, how can I say this? Democrats have done such a good job of shifting the goalpost of expectations and measurement of success for their presidents, that now we measure the success of Barack Obama and Bill Clinton based on metrics that are standard metrics for Republicans. We look at the unemployment rate. We look at the U3 unemployment rate, right? We look at the deficit. How low do we reduce the deficit? We look at do we trim are we on track for reducing the national debt? We look at the stock market. We look at all these indicators that are promoted and have always been promoted by Republicans, and pay no attention to any progressive metric that may include some of those, but never to the detriment of the working class. But we've shifted the goalpost so far to the right, Democrats have, that now we tout fiscally conservative economics and policies, rather. We tout that as this is a sign that our president is better than your president. With no indication, with no inclination, no attention being paid whatsoever to metrics like investments in human capital, the Gini coefficient, the wealth disparities in America, no measurements like that. How easy is it for someone born in poverty to move out of poverty? That is nowhere on the radar for Democrats in 2016. So Hillary Clinton might disagree publicly with Charles Koch on climate change. She might disagree publicly with Charles Koch on voter suppression, but she can't disagree with him economically, because everything that Clinton did, everything that Barack Obama did, has been an economic stimulus to the top 1%, and the Koch brothers are doing just fine. A-okay. All right.